forthwith to the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the Jersey Journal, and the Bergen Record, following advance written notice of this meeting with the clerk and administrator of each member, and posting a copy of the meeting notice on the public bulletin board of all members. I direct the secretary to enter into the minutes of this meeting the advance written notice of this meeting and this statement. Ed, is there an additional posting that we did relative to this?
Yes, in accordance with the DCA emergency directives, this meeting's been noticed on our website, and we have a call-in feature available for any public that wants to participate. I believe Tom is sitting in the call-in chambers. Tom, are you on?
He's not. They can put him right into my office. I'm in the office, Ed.
Oh, okay. So Glenn will handle any call-ins.
He might
Are
be
there
out.
any that we know of?
No, nobody has called in.
All right. With that, can we have a roll call, please?
Mike Sika?
Here. Mike Sika's here. Sorry about that.
Oh, we are, okay. Okay. Good, Mike. Scott Frew?
Here.
Gabrielle Saboni? Jeanette Larison?
Here.
Paul Clark?
Here.
Stacy Crowley?
Here.
Brandon Goldberg?
Here.
Christine Fisher?
Here.
Bernie Hozovic?
Yeah.
Art Lindesky?
Here.
Joe Zenga?
Here.
Dawn McDonald?
Here.
William Kurtz, Glenn Kurtz,
Here.
Ed Testino? Ed, I thought I saw you there. Okay.
He's there.
Joe Manzo?
Here.
Donna Setzer?
I'm here.
Louis Cote?
Here.
Sean Kelly? Dominic Sinelli?
Here.
Robin Rassiopi?
Here.
Patty Fahey?
Here.
Amy Baroni?
Here, thank you.
Who?
She's here.
Amy's here?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Mike McCormick? Okay. All present, accounted for, Chair.
You missed
Thank you.
here.
Also here.
Glenn Cullen
Glenn, okay,
and James Gote.
yes.
All right, we have the minutes from the April 22nd, 2020 meeting. There's just two typos, at least that I've seen. The fourth line, the word advised is spelled wrong. And then on the second page with Skyline Environmental, the first sentence, the word and should just be and. Does anybody else have any other corrections, additions, changes to the April 22nd minutes? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 22nd, 2020?
Motion. Second.
That's
Stacy?
Stacy and Dawn? Roll call?
Dawn McDonald? Paul Clark?
Yes.
Scott Frew?
Yes.
Jeanette Larison?
Yes.
Joe Zenga?
Abstain.
Abstain. Stacy Crowley?
Yes.
Brandon Goldberg?
Yes.
Bernie Hozovic?
Yes. All right, the administrator's report. Bill?
Yes. We claims for 2020, excuse me, so far through April, 443,451 as opposed to a budget of 4,846,977 for a 9% loss ratio. 2019, 2,330,610 as opposed to a budget of 5,150,000 for a 45% loss rate ratio. And 2018, 3,651,567 as opposed to 6,670,000, 54%. Doing very well, commissioners. Good work. and to you and the Safety and Loss Control Program. Investment-wise, in freehold savings, $4,600,000. In Amboy Bank Administration account, $1,195,982 for a total of $5,775,982. The last CD we put out was on May 13th, and we only took it till November. The rates are down 0.50%.
Wow.
We were getting 2.25. That was the last one we put out. So
Yeah.
if anybody has any other suggestions with banks you use, please let me know.
Will do. Anybody have any questions of Bill?
Chair, just, we had one person came in, and I don't identify the phone number. If I could find out who that was, just came on board.
Me, Sean Kelly.
Oh, hi, Sean.
Oh, Sean Kelly's there. Okay.
Hang on. Excuse me.
All right, with that, we will move on to managed care and Donna.
Sorry, I was having a hard time unmuting. So for the month of April, QualCares reports, month of April, we had 105 bills that came in. 103 were in network and only 2 were out of network, which gives us a network utilization of 98%. Total charges were $153,353.64. Amount approved for payment was $43,914.15. For savings of $109,439.49, giving us a savings of 71% of savings from charges. There were 29 injuries called in, 20 of them required treatment. I would like to give you an update on the COVID exposures. Glenn sent out an email this morning. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members that had reports that came in. Borough of Boundbrook, there were 5. Carteret had 2. Jamesburg had 4. Milltown 1. City of New Brunswick had 11. And Township of South Brunswick had 2. On the second page, it kind of gives you a breakdown of whether there were definite exposures or just possible exposures, whether they had symptoms or they were non-symptomatic when they reported it, results with how many were positive, how many were negative. So the breakdown is out of 23 that were called in, 10 were reported positive testing, 13 were negative, and we also have 1 claimant that was hospitalized positive. I would like to also give you an update on the surgeries. There was an order that the governor had sent out that the surgery centers could resume elective surgeries as of yesterday. The facilities will do some testing for COVID. They will test the patient for COVID. They will conduct a symptomatic screening for them. And then once that's done, the patient has to quarantine for 3 days prior to the surgery. The facilities are doing the priority of which surgeries get done first. So if you have an employee who's been sitting waiting for surgery, this is a procedure that's going to go through. They'll be, again, tested. They will be screened. They will quarantine for 3 days. And the facility itself will determine when that surgery will be completed. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Anybody have questions for Donna? All right, hearing none, I'll move to safety and loss control with Glenn.
Yes, Chair. In the packets for the that we sent out are claims as reported through 5/22. This report, unfortunately, wasn't updated to include any of the workers' comp claims. And as you can see, we've been relatively light on new reports. Also included our claims we've closed off the system, as well as claims we still continue to pursue third-party recoveries. GL claims recovered to date, 8268. $4,647,000, and on the workers' compensation system, $4,070,742. With that being said, Mr. Testino recently settled a subrogation on our behalf against a third party. We had a lien of $11,000, and there was a stolen vehicle. We still have the lien against the guy who stole the vehicle, but we had a lien against the vehicle owner, which he was able to settle for $2,000, which basically the carrier could have stepped away from it for it being in violation of a crime. So we got $2,000 out of the estate prior to them settling it, and we still have an open lien with the gentleman who's in jail. Is that correct, Ed?
Yes, it's, I think I sent the releases over to you for signature. Since it's under 21,000, you could do it administratively, but we're just reporting to the board.
Yeah.
If there are any questions, I can answer them.
Other than that, I have Mr. Gote on the line, who's going to give you an update as to what the state is doing and what he can and cannot do, and take it from there.
All right.
Okay. We will be opening our offices on a limited access note on June 8th, but if anyone needs any help, you can contact us through, you can call the office, or you have our cell phones, or online, or go through Glenn. What we're planning on doing when we open up is to get in contact with you as quickly as possible. Hopefully the June 8th deadline by the governor will be lifted, and it will allow us to go out and finish the right to know surveys. Strangely enough, even though they've talked about extending it, the July 15, 2020 deadline for submitting the survey has not been lifted. And at this point, that makes it kind of like interesting, because you would have thought that if they were going to do it, it would have been done long ago. So we want to make sure that we get out and get as many members as we can, as many members as we need to, in order to finish this in a timely manner. Our plan is to direct our staff to maximize our staff in a way that we provide you with the least amount of interruption. We're going to try to get everybody as much as possible done in one day. The bigger places like New Brunswick and whatnot will send multiple groups so that it's only a one-day exposure. We will need access to the various facilities. The only one that we really anticipate needing us a guide to go to every location with us is the parking authority, the New Brunswick Parking Authority, and we will be in contact with them to make sure that we do it in a timely manner and minimize the impact to them. The second part of this is one of the things, as you may remember, that we need to come to your site to have you press the enter key so that we can submit the surveys in time to get you the books and all that. And one of the suggestions that we had is, if you want us to do that, we can do that, but we could also do it online. We have full visual online capabilities where we can contact you at an appropriate time for you and tell you what we have, and you can watch us hit the enter key for you if you would prefer not to have us on site. So that's something for you to consider. But the main thing is we want to get out and do this as quickly as possible, because PIOSH has been going around. We actually, prior to the shutdown, just the week of the shutdown, we had to deliver the full package to Jamesburg. The PIOSH inspectors are not cutting back on requirements that we're aware of. The second thing is municipal wastewater, solid waste employees. The classifications for them has not changed. They're still considered a medium risk category. There's nothing new that has been issued by CDC, OSHA, PIOSH, or anybody else. They're considering a medium risk category that requires no new procedures for employees who work with solid waste or in the sewers or whatever. because, and this is always interesting to point out, PASH expects that employers are already using all the appropriate engineering controls, PPE, hygiene procedures, and the necessary employee training to make sure that these people are safe. So, and what they particularly address is the PPE, the bloodborne pathogens, HASCOM, and respiratory training. So they're saying that if you're following those procedures, there's no need for them to issue anything new. As far as the training is concerned, and I want to turn some of this over to Louis here in a minute that he can give you a little bit more information. Our training is on hold simply because of the physical training, you know, in-person training, because of the various limitations. So the main one being that inside there's only 10 people allowed at a meeting, and that basically one of the 10 would be the instructor. So you're basically down to like 9 people. I don't see a great opportunity for significant training, except for an emergency or something at a specific location for a small group, until they issue the 50% occupancy rate for training locations. We have the ability at Skyline to provide visual online training to anyone who desires it. We could do that in less than an hour. Okay, we do that immediately, actually, because we're hooked up to Zoom and everything else, and we have everything we need. But on the other end, if we're going to practice social distancing, unless you're going to be issuing a lot of iPads, or unless you have a different capability, it doesn't really, you know, or multiple sites at the same time. It doesn't appear that at this point we can make a significant effort on training. And I wanted to get some feedback from the board on that before we finish up with 2 other items that I'll let Louis cover. But I just want to open that up to the group, how you feel about the training. As just while we were in the meeting, I received notification that OSHA has put out a statement for basically construction workers, all the crafts basically. And they're saying everything remains the same. The requirements for training and employee safety are still the same. The only thing they're saying is keep the meetings as short as possible and do not exceed the 10 people guideline. So, you know, the toolbox training, all that kind of thing, they're saying minimize it and practice social distancing. So that plus something else that I want Louis to read to you is there's no leniency being given. The only leniency that we received, and it's a temporary leniency, is for particularly healthcare employees they're bypassing temporarily fit testing of respirators for dust masks. And the reason that they're doing that for the N95s is because of the shortage of these things. So they don't want you wasting the respirator on a fit test. Now, the stipulation that they put in is if it's the same mask that people have been previously tested on, and we're talking dust masks now, not full face or anything else, those they still expect you to be fit tested for. So your firemen and whatever, that's still in place for that. But for the dust mask, they're saying that they're temporarily holding a requirement to be fitted. So till there's sufficient supply available, and then that, I guess, will end at that point in time. So as far as the training and the requirements, I don't see any leniency being shown based on everything that we've seen. I would like to get your thoughts and your opinions before we go any further with the subject of training. Anybody?
I guess his question is, can you guys accommodate the individual employees either via Zoom training program where they're all provided with an individual login? Correct, Jim?
Yeah, that would be it. My hope would be, if they allow the 50% occupancy, is that in the bigger conference rooms could practice you could practice the bigger, in the bigger conference rooms, you could practice the social distancing and still get a significant number of people if the municipality is willing to allow, at that point, people from other municipalities to come and join. So, so long as we keep the numbers reasonable within that 50% occupancy, I could see it happening then. The online thing we could do, like I said, on a moment's notice practically, but it's going to be then up to you to provide the employees with the access to the to the online system to allow them to be to be trained.
I have a question. Would you be able to do Zoom training for HASCOM as well?
Yes, we could do for most of what we have, if not all of it, except those things that require hands-on, like respiratory fit testing and things like that. We can do that. The only problem that we would have on your end is that, you can't have more than 10 people in a room, and even there, you got to practice the social distancing within that room. So, especially in your place, Stacy, that conference room of yours, even putting 10 people in there would be a challenge if you're going to practice social distancing.
What I was thinking is, since this whole virus, we've laid off about 60% of our staff. So, we got audited, the list of people that are required to get the HASCOM training has gone from I think 8 to 4 or 5. So I was wondering, could they do it if one person came on the laptop, maybe trickle them over the course of a few months, because I think our deadline is October to get the people that we have trained.
I think that's not going to be a problem, and even if we had to go there for 4 people, it's not a big deal. We would bring thermometers. We have them already, and even the oximeters if we need to. And anyone that has a temperature is not getting in. I mean, when we'll practice social distancing and whatever. For 4 people in your conference room, I don't anticipate that as being a problem. But for people like, say, South Brunswick or New Brunswick or some of the other municipalities that have a lot of people, it becomes more a limitation of what you will allow us to do than our limitation on being able to provide whether it be physically there or online. It's more a limitation of your preference rather than our capability to provide the training.
Okay.
It's just something to consider. Stacy, I'll get back with you on that, and we'll get those people trained as quickly as we can. But if nothing else, consideration for the group, the governor's shutdown has not been lifted yet. We're assuming that June 8th he'll lift it based on everything else that he's done. But that's an issue. But even then, our primary thing is the immediate deadline, which is July 15th, which doesn't allow us a significant amount of time to dilly-dally. We're going to have to hit the road hard and heavy to get everybody in within the deadline. And as you've heard, Stacy is being harassed by a PIASH inspector. They're not going away. They're not going away. All right, there's food for thought. What I like to do is, especially since Donna mentioned about the COVID employees, I'd like, if you don't mind, Glenn, I'd like to have Louis talk about just issued OSHA regulations on COVID-19 reporting as an occupational illness. And then as something that we picked up just yesterday on the OSHA website on their concept of what training is, responsibilities you have. Louis, you on board?
Yeah.
Right,
hi, everybody. Yes, as my dad had mentioned, PIASH is requiring that any confirmed case of COVID-19 that is found to be work-related has to be documented on your injury and illness log, your PIASH 300 log, as a respiratory illness. And for any training, because they are taken into consideration with all limitations. If you, you need to make sure you document if by chance, if training comes up for any type of annual training like level 1 or PPE, if you aren't able to provide it within that year, just document as to why, which obviously my dad talked about the limited amount of people within. Just make sure all information is documented. That way when PIOSH comes by, you can at least inform them. Unless anybody has any questions, that's what I had to touch on.
Louis, I have one with respect to the governor's signature on the presumption of first responders. Their contact was to be presumed happened while at work. Should that, regardless of any type of investigation, be included on that form?
Oh, well, it would only be if it's work related. So you would actually have to investigate to see if it was transmitted through work. So whether they received it from a coworker or while they were at work through someone in the public. So there would be a little bit of an investigation on the employer's part to confirm that it was work related, the COVID-19.
I'm sorry. This is
No,
Jeanette now, and
Go
I
ahead,
just have
Jeanette.
I have a quick question. How do you know? How do you prove that it was transmitted from employees? If you've had an incident in your municipality and you do a basic contact tracing, and that person that you speak to says that they weren't in contact with anybody, but maybe other people in the building come down with it. How do you conclusively say how it was contracted?
That's a great
Jeanette.
question. Oh.
Go ahead. Yeah, Jeanette, that's a great question. The problem is going to be documentation on your part. They're basically asking you to become a contact tracer, and you're going to have to document somehow that this was not done at work. It's kind of like, you're guilty till proven innocent type stuff. So yeah, they issued this directive, and we can forward. I mean, we've already forwarded to Glenn. We can forward to you, or if you contact us, or just download it from the OSHA website. You're going to have to show that you did due diligence to identify the fact that the person did not get it at work for two reasons. One, if he did get it at work, it may be other people that also may be involved, okay? And then the other one is so that you can identify that you don't have a problem in the work that you do. Louis, I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, that's exactly it. That's all.
Is there any guidance or anything that you guys can send us so that we can follow to do this due diligence? Like a series of questions or some kind of guidance how to provide this documentation and what kind of questions to ask?
Dawn, I actually have some questions that were given to us by an attorney, and we do use them when the reports are called into qual care links. Our nurses then contact the patient or the employee and follow up on some of the questions. What we've been told is that first responders, the police, the EMTs, the firefighters, they are all presumed that it's work related. Everyone else is basically, it's not a presumption, and that has to be investigated more. And I believe that most of them are just being reported as record only and telling them to be following up with their own private physicians. But again, the police, we've had people call in, including police and first responders, that said, they were exposed to a family member. We certainly make sure that we document that, and then the adjusters and the JIF members know that they admitted that they were exposed to a family member. Now you have calls that come in where police, first responders, they had a subject that was resisting arrest and there was blood and there was an altercation. find out later that that was a COVID positive person, then they report it to us, it automatically becomes, you know, presumed that they got that from that person. Motor vehicle accidents, the same thing. If the motor vehicle accident, they're responding to people, they find out that that person was COVID positive. People that are being taken to the emergency rooms from EMTs, and they wind up having symptoms of COVID, that would be presumed that they got it as a work-related injury. But other people, other office workers, you can't, we're across the board, I've seen in the different JIFs, are not accepting them as a workers' comp.
Should they be filed though as report only?
They do. They do report it. We do recommend that they report it to us anyway, so that we do have something on file, and that the adjusters and the risk managers could make sure that they're investigated fully.
Okay, we
Donna,
have
even like-
3, so I'll be following up with that.
Just James or Lewis, in that regard, because these OSHA logs, I assume, are updated monthly still, correct?
Yes.
So if a name goes on the log and then it gets investigated and found to have happened at home or somewhere else, it can be removed from the log?
You know what? I don't know about removing it. I would have to look into that, Glenn. That's an interesting comment. I'm hesitant to say erase it. I would probably leave the log. My opinion, and this is, you know, my opinion would be leave it on and then just list on it, investigation has shown it to be not work related. Because if for some reason later on it turns out to be the opposite, then you will have deleted it and they'll say, well, why did you do that? I think you're just gonna have to document the fact that, you know, you have it, maybe you put next to it no longer applicable, but I would keep that document available in case someone questions it. But we'll look into that
To report it.
verify it.
Anything else? All right, thank you. Oh,
I'm
somebody-
sorry, this is Donna again. Does the group want me to send out the questionnaire to everyone, or Dawn, do you just want it? Would everyone like it?
I would like
I'd
it.
like to see it.
Yeah.
I'll take one also.
Okay, I'll
Is
send it
that
out.
what you got from John Gainey's seminar?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, you could send that to everybody.
okay, good.
Thank
And
you.
Donna, one more quick question.
Sure.
If someone was exposed from a confirmed positive and they were quarantined for 14 days and lost time out of work and were paid, should that be reported as well?
Any exposure, if they were exposed, you can report it. We'll
Okay.
keep it as a record only.
Okay,
And Glenn and his group will take it over from there.
okay.
All right.
Good job.
Have any other questions? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the finance report with Joe.
Thank you, everybody. Glenn, I believe, sent the report out this morning as I finished it last night. Just want to echo some of Bill's comments about where we are in terms of claims for the year. Well, in terms of assessments, I think most people have paid their requirement up to date. Some of the issues may be that towns are not meeting as much or maybe doing, you know, Zoom meetings and not enough staff in the office to process all vouchers for, you know, all their invoices. So there are a couple of municipalities who are a little bit behind in their payments, but nothing significant. The one that's the most behind has the smallest assessment. So everything seems to be, you know, on target for the year. Doesn't seem to be that much effect, except for, you know, as Bill said, the fact that we're getting almost zero on an interest rate. There aren't really very many places to go for that other than places you don't want to go for that. So I think we should just hang tough where we're at. And,
Anybody good at the racetrack?
you got dog tracks down there, don't you? In Florida? Yeah,
I think that's
the market's coming back, if you've been following that. So the bank rates will follow maybe, 3 to 6 months behind that. So we're doing very well.
All right, any questions for Joe? All right, before we move on, Glenn, is there anyone else who's on the line from the public before we go into closed session?
No, Chair, I haven't gotten anyone calling in.
All right, is there a motion to go into closed session?
Motion.
Second.
With that, moving on to audience comments. Anybody in the audience have anything? And Glenn, is there anyone who has called in?
No, Chair, no one has since called in.
All right, anybody else have comments? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the bill list, which you have. I believe it's dated May 27th, 2020. Anybody have any questions on that before we vote? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the bill list for May?
Motion.
Scott
Scott?
Second.
and Dawn with a second. Roll call.
Don McDonald?
Yes.
Paul Clark?
Yes.
Scott Fru?
Yes.
Joe Zenga?
Yes.
Stacy Crowley?
Yes.
Brandon Goldberg?
Yes.
Ernie Hodzovic?
Yes. Is there any?
Glenn, I will drop those checks off. I did the checks already. They'll be in the mail this afternoon. I have to go to the post office to put the proper postage on the envelope.
Okay.
All
Did Bernie sign them or are they coming here?
No, Bernie had already signed like 25 checks last month, so they're just coming right to you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, with that, all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, so we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Be